Steve, are we anywhere near a peak at this point?
The numbers don't tell us that yet. Obviously, with these numbers you just mentioned, 2,071 daily cases, confirmed cases reported Monday, with another 4,500 preliminary positives. So potentially we could see another doubling of these cases. And this is the big challenge, because hospital authorities are already saying that their hospitals have reached capacity. I mean, actually, they say the isolation centers and the hospitals combined are at more than 90% capacity. But in the same breath, almost, they are saying essentially they are at or beyond capacity with COVID patients. And they're also saying thousands are awaiting hospitalization. So in many senses, they're saying if you're asymptomatic and you test positive at home, or you feel you might have it, isolate at home, don't swamp the emergency rooms, because again, they are at capacity and, near breaking point. And the big problem here is, again, vaccinations. 54% of the population over age 70 are inoculated with just one dose. Vaccines for children aged, 5 to 11 just only recently began. And, deaths are starting to increase. We had a couple of deaths reported over the weekend. Now another 4 deaths announced yesterday, including 2 elderly men who hadn't even reached hospital. And this has been a stated concern of Carrie Lam, the chief executive, about the vulnerability of the elderly, many of which are not inoculated because, again, 80-year-old plus have about 30% inoculation rate. So they need to get that up. And these restrictions that Hong Kong are seeing right now is intended to buy some time to get that vaccination rate up. However, it's slow going as we see the numbers just slowly ticking up from a daily basis.
And of course, the restrictions, the dynamic COVID zero strategy has had the impact on the corporate world, right? We're now hearing, Steve, Pernod Ricard has asked top executives from its Hong Kong office to relocate temporarily to avoid the strict COVID-19 curbs as they're preparing for China to take that greater role. And of course, it kind of echoes similar decisions and sentiment that we've heard from the likes of Mandarin Oriental wanting to move their executive team as well. So clearly this is weighing when it comes to not just individuals, but also the corporate outlook as well. There is something that was quite interesting, I thought. This approval of the anti-COVID pill from Pfizer by Beijing, does that suggest that maybe we could see a little bit more flexibility going forward?
That struck me as well when I saw that headline cross over the weekend, as well last week when Hong Kong said it's procuring 2 antiviral COVID drugs from Pfizer and from another supplier. That indicates, and we are also getting indications in China, that China giving conditional approval to Paxlovid, which is the Pfizer antiviral drug intended to combat the ill effects, obviously, of COVID, that's an indication that China is open or maybe allowing a transition to living with the virus and a deviation a bit from the zero COVID approach. And in fact, a former chief scientist at the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that move to procure Paxlovid may pave the way for more flexible approach, as China's own mRNA vaccines are not ready. About 90% of China is vaccinated, but they use the homegrown Sinovac or Sinopharm variant, and which has been proven by many reports, that it's not as effective against Omicron. So until they have their own homegrown mRNA, this could potentially be, a stopgap, if you will. But the big issue here for China and for Hong Kong is saving costs. I mean, lockdowns and quarantines and isolation, this is expensive. It could potentially save costs. It could potentially as well save face on the zero COVID approach. Again, I'm not endorsing Paxlovid or anything like that, but it does indicate a move of more flexibility perhaps from China, and therefore how it translates to Hong Kong as well.